the other's Jim, sat there. We've both known Ross for years and it's an honour to be asked. Before I start, on behalf of Ross's parents, Ray and Lynn, and Gabby's parents, Antal and Gabby, I'd like to thank all of you for coming today. I'd also like to thank the bridesmaids for doing a wonderful job for sorting Gabby out and making sure she even turned up. Gabby, you look absolutely stunning. And Ross, Gabby looks absolutely stunning. On just a quick note, if any of you've got any mobile phones, please keep them switched on. Keep your spirits high and your expectations low, and we'll all be okay. After all, Gabby has. As well as these two, I am actually quite nervous about talking in front of people. So I did have a little practice down at my nan's old people's home. I think it went alright, they all pissed themselves anyway. Sorry, Ray's mum. Congratulations, Ross and Gabby, you're now married, for better or for worse. Well, that's quite appropriate, as Ross couldn't have done much better, and Gabby certainly couldn't have done much worse. A lot of people here are probably wondering just what it is that Gabby's sinning Ross, but to be fair, I've known Ross a long time, and I don't know either. I do know, however, that when these two met, it was love at first sight. Pure and simple. Gabby was pure and Ross is simple. So, rest assured though, unlike most traditional best man speeches, which are full of sexual innuendo, I promise Ross and Gabby that if there's anything slightly risque, I'll whip it out immediately. Now, if we can hold proceedings for a few seconds, I'll just take it back to the start. I did mention that Jim and me are both best men today, so we've split the main duties down the middle. I'm doing the speech now, and Jim took charge of the stag do. That was an absolutely brilliant weekend. We went up to Newcastle. We met some weird and wonderful people, and yes, Gabby, I'm sorry, but some of these people were of the opposite sex. A great time was had by all. In fact, one of these ladies in particular had such a great time, she wanted to surprise you today, Ross. She was on holiday in Torbay, and she should be here by now. Jim, do you want to go and bring her in? What a stunner, I think you'll agree. Gorgeous. So there she is. Lovely. There comes a time, let's get a bit serious for a few minutes. There comes a time in everyone's life when they meet their one true love. Their soulmate, and the person who's going to know and love them for the rest of their life. That time came for Ross about 20 years ago when he met me. There are so many stories, great stories to tell about Ross, but so few I'm allowed to talk about today. There are certain roles the best man, or men in our case, are supposed to do. You have the obvious ones like the stag do and the speech, but I believe mine and Jim's main responsibilities today were these three. To ensure the groom arrives on time, sober and looking good. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Well, we're the best men, not plastic surgeons. But no, I always thought you two were a perfect match for each other. After all, relationships are built on trust and understanding. And she doesn't trust him and he doesn't understand her. Now, before I turn my attention solely to Ross, I have to admit that this has been a very hard decision. Do I assassinate Ross's honourable character, or do I take the moral high ground and tell you just how wonderful he is? Ross is a man of many hidden talents. As soon as I find one, I'll let you know. So I'm supposed to sing Ross's praises today and tell you what a great person he is, but unfortunately I'm not a great singer and I won't lie. On a serious note, and this is serious, Ross is one of the most kind, genuine, honest, helpful, caring people I've ever known. And as far as friends go, Ross ticks all the boxes. In the past, I've been asked by others, what's this Ross guy like then? And there's not a thing in the world that would stop Ross trying to help you if he could. If you wanted to borrow something, or needed a lift somewhere, or simply needed something picking up, he would literally stop his own plans, put everything on hold, and come and help you with yours. So there's not many like Ross in the world. It's absolutely obvious that Ross is from an amazing family to whom he's completely devoted. He never stops talking about his parents, Ray and Lynn, his brothers Scott and Jason, and his niece and nephews Zoe, Jack and Cody. A family man through and through, and family values have clearly stuck with Ross throughout. He's a kind-hearted man, and I hope to remain friends with him forever. So we're all really happy for you, Ross, me, Jim, and all the boys and everyone else. And I'm sure that you and everyone agrees that you and Gabby are absolutely perfect for each other. Now I'm going to ask you both to do something now. Don't be embarrassed. If you could just turn and face each other, grab each other's hands, look lovingly into each other's eyes. Statistically, you are looking at the person who's most likely to murder you. I was going to leave that one out. So it's come to that customary point of the day when we have to take the mick out of Ross. But luckily we don't have to, as nature's already beaten us to it. Just to warn those of you that don't know, throughout this speech you may hear me refer to Ross by a different name. Although Ross is his birth name, he's got loads of names over the years that he answers to. So some of these names are, obviously Ross, Josh, Joshua, Josh Barr, Ras, Manpower, Ras Manpower, Chavez, Stanley, Vin Diesel, Manners, Johnny Lookalike, Johnny Lookalike, and Ross's personal favourite, Pillow Talk. So a little bit of history now. Ross is a Torquay boy, born and bred. I decided to look at Ross's date of birth on the internet to see what momentous events took place on his birthday. Unfortunately, nothing much seems to have happened, although the nurses on the ward where Ross was born still refer to that day as Ugly Tuesday. It's true, I asked them. It's fair to say Ross was a slow starter in life. At play school, Ross was different from the other 5-year-olds. He was 11. But in spite of this, I have learned a lot from Ross over the years. For example, during the teenage years, by observing Ross, I was able to avoid some truly terrible haircuts. And Ross will know what I'm talking about, but he did have this one do that we all referred to as the Weetabix. You need to see it to believe it. I've also spoken to some of Ross's work colleagues who tell me that his nickname at work is the God. It's true. Apparently he makes up his own rules, and if he does any work, it's a bloody miracle.
Sorry, Tom, it's not true.
I then asked various people to share a few thoughts about Ross. I barely found anyone that had a bad word to say about him, although I did find some. When I heard belligerent, lazy, stubborn, obstinate, I thought, hang on, that's a bit rough. Even if there's a hint of truth behind him, it's a bit rough on his wedding day. But then again, if his parents don't know him, then who does? There's no denying it, Ross gets a hard time for his lack of common sense. And you may feel that this is a little bit harsh, but let me take this opportunity to tell you the reasoning behind him gaining such a reputation. I used to live with Ross. In fact, my brother Tony used to live with Ross. Dan Julian used to live with Ross. Mark used to live with Ross. Lots of people used to live with Ross. Graham used to live with Ross. I used to have a silent affair with Ross. It's fair to say he gets about. But on this occasion, when we were living together, I remember making us pizzas for tea. When they were ready, I shouted through to the lounge, "Shall I cut yours into 4, Ross, or to 8? And Ross replied, "You better make it 4, as I'll never manage 8. This lack of common sense and stupidity has continued over a number of years. So although I don't like people to refer to Ross as not the sharpest tool in the box, I prefer them to refer to him as just unique. Let's put it that way. I'll give you a few more examples. He's the only person I know to buy 2 of the same lottery numbers because he thinks if he wins, he'll win twice as much.
In case anybody else wants something,
He's the only person I know to turn on the heating in the middle of summer just to defrost his dinner. He's the only person I know that thinks Tracy Chapman is a man. He's the only person I know that would buy a pair of shoes only to realise that one's matte and one's gloss. Matalan, by the way. Great show. He's the only person I know that turns into the Incredible Hulk if you slap him on the back of the head enough times. Boys. He's the only person I've ever seen hump his own dad. And to be fair, Ray, you loved it. Giving a speech here, Ross, hold on. He's the only person I know that went all the way to Butlins to see S Club 7 just to get too drunk and be escorted home by 2 strangers. He's the only person I know that doesn't leave the house without some moisturiser just in case he gets a dry forehead. And he's the only person I know that on a night out, when grabbing something to eat, most people might get a kebab, Ross orders a jacket potato with ham, cheese and beans, with extra ham, cheese and beans. It's big. But apart from all that, what a guy. I'll skip these, a bit too saucy.
No, you don't mind.
Ross has been a great friend over the years, a bit like we have to him. And that's why I'd like to share with you a few tips on married life. Firstly, you need to set the ground rules and establish who's boss, and then do everything Gabby says. You need to be a good listener. My wife says I never listen, or something like that. The most effective way to remember your wife's birthday is to forget it once. And the key to a successful marriage is to always remember to say to Gabby those very special 3 words. You're right, dear. All of those are true, but really and honestly, Gabby deserves a wonderful, successful, loving husband. Thank goodness that Ross married her before she found one. Right, a couple more bits and then we're done. Ross has asked me to say a couple of words. Ross would like to thank everyone for their kind cards and gifts. We were going to put our money together and get them a waterbed, but Jim thought they might drift apart. That's a good one. That. On another quick note, just to update everyone, they have changed their honeymoon destination. I was talking to Ross earlier, and it now seems that they're going to North Wales. He said he's going to bang her all week. So this is it, the last thing I'll say today. Although Jim and I have been the best men, it's you, Ross, who is the best man today. And Gabby, there's no denying it, you're the best thing that's ever happened to Ross. I've never known him to be so happy as he is with you. So now, Ross and Gabby, this is just the beginning, the best is yet to come. Ladies and gents, can I get everyone to stand? Raise a glass to the new Mr. and Mrs. Manley. Thank you.